It's that time of the month, the very beginning, where we get another monthly manga chapter. And as I stated last month, with essentially Blue Exorcist being on break till next May, we will be getting Twin Star Exorcist content in the meantime. At least unless that this series also goes on break for an unknown reason, but Blue Exorcist is actually, the mangaka is working on a different adaptation for a novel, so that is at least known. But for now, Twin Star Exorcist is another monthly series that I've been really enjoying, and I got some pretty good feedback from the very first review I did last month. So for now, I'm going to continue doing this series until Blue Exorcist returns, and if by that point people still like this content, I might end up doing both every single month. But without further ado, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos, and also comment down below on what you believe is going to happen next, your thoughts on this series of videos and this chapter, and theories for what could happen next. Don't forget to check out my Patreon also, as I do have some really nice perks on there, especially for a small channel like myself, that will benefit you guys if you choose to help support the channel with your donations. I also have a Ko-fi account as well, links for that and my Patreon in the description below. And with all that said and done, let's get into this month's chapter. Now, a brief summary. Last month we had 2 chapters, which was a very interesting thing, because I didn't think a monthly series would be able to produce 2 chapters in a single month. But this is something that I was okay with, and I made an extremely long video for it. But the roundabout thing is, we basically got the death of another member of the 12 Guardians, some interesting tidbits about Gabra as a character and potential backstory. We have the entirety of Tsujimikado Island being threatened by giant, nigh unstoppable Kigari creatures, and the last chapter ending with Benio coming to the realization that she has to use her great yin powers, basically become a Kigari forever, throwing away her humanity to save everyone on Tsujimikado Island. And this is going to play into this new chapter later down the road. But yeah, that was a very hard choice, and this is basically Benio's goodbye to Rokuro, as if she awakens, she cannot be human and she cannot stay on Earth anymore, just to go to Magano with all the other Kigari and Basara. So this was honestly a very emotional moment, and this chapter starts off right afterwards. Chapter 99 of Twin Star Exorcists, Sunset. And next month, we're going to be hitting triple digits, so that's going to be pretty exciting. But anyway, this chapter starts off with Benio saying goodbye to Rokuro as she then transforms into her great yin form. Rokuro tells Benio to wait as she lunges forward away from him towards the Kigari creature, saying that I won't forgive you. As she then slams into one of these monsters, breaking it. And she states, no, I'll never ever forgive you, to all these Kigari. As she continues to kick and break through all of these Kigari monsters, but as one charges towards her, we then get a big explosion and we get the reveal of Rokuro in his great Yang form. He also decided to just cast away the rest of his full-on humanity, as he said he couldn't keep his promise, apologizing to Benio, as seeing her go into the Great Yin form, he had to become the Great Yang now. And I like how they're, despite both of them basically giving up their humanity at this point, fully becoming the 2 halves of the Twin Star Exorcists fully, the Great Yin and the Great Yang, they still retain their personalities, and I like that a lot. They grab hands as Benio states that it's okay, and that this is probably for the best, as they both turn towards all those monsters, saying it's time to end this. As they rush towards them and break them. But Rokuro begins to think to himself, begins to flash back to his promise to Benio, stating that as long as they have to be exorcists and fight Kigari, he can't promise full happiness. But he wants to be with Benio forever. Calling himself a liar in his head. Going through all the flashbacks to their wedding, stating that if they can exorcise the King Kigari before they have a kid, they don't need the power of the Great Yin and the Great Yang. As they continue to break through all these monsters, as Rokuro continues to think in his head, you damn liar. As more of these things get broken down. As we see some exorcists on the ground saying that they defeated that huge Kigari, and wondering, but is that the true form of the Twin Stars? As we then cut back to Tenma and Shimon as they are fighting their respective opponents. As they end up realizing what's going on, one of them calls to Yamato And no, not the One Piece Yamato, but the Basra Yamato that is fighting Tenma, saying that they have to leave and that they've already fulfilled Sakanashi's orders. We also cut back to Kamui's fight between Chijiwa and the other one, Sutor, and I forgot the other one's name, stating that they have to leave right now. As the white-haired Basra states, basically says the other one, Shijiwa, to get through his head that Sutara is gone. As they turn back to Kamui, stating that he's a traitorous outsider and that he'll be sorry for what he's done. We also cut to the fight between Kankuro and the Turtle 12 Guardian. I keep forgetting his name, and he's a pretty fun character, and the two other Basra that they are currently fighting. The fight continues, wondering what's going on and stuff like this, as one Basra tells the other to run, but this one basically refuses to, as then a snake ends up grabbing and biting into him, as it is revealed to be the Snake 12 Guardian Tatara, who, if we pay attention from chapters earlier, was still alive and getting up. He infected this Basra with poison, and his body is beginning to swell and bubble up as he reaches out to help. But the other one pushes him away out of just sheer instinct, but as he reaches for him, a barrier goes up holding that Basra in. As this Basra basically begins to say how he won't forgive him, how he won't forgive this Basra Gurusu. He's supposed to be the minister of their nation. But then, as this Basra then explodes from the poison, basically deteriorating him, the last Basra, whose name we got is Gurusu, gets stabbed through the chest by Kankuro, and he's dead. He is fallen to the ground. And I like how, despite all this whole grave situation, we then get this funny interaction with the Turtle 12 Guardians, basically telling the Tatara to stay in that barrier for all he cares, and that his poison could have killed them. And Tatara, seemingly in a day, states that he had faith that they wouldn't die from his toxins. He also stated that, on the other hand, any 12 Guardian who cannot fight because they're too weak to deal with it can just drop dead. As it's literally just responded to him. That's what a villain would say. Kankuro looks down onto the two Basra they just defeated, saying that they were a good team. No matter how much pain they were in, you could have, as the other one states, I couldn't forgive you. And we then get a brief flashback of the Basra that was just killed by Tatara's poison, saying some really nice things, showing that these two were really close friends. As the last thing that happens before this Basra fully fades away is he begins to tear, and he begins to cry. We then cut back to Shizuru's group as she is very injured from her battle with Gabra and everything that happened with those giant Kagare creatures just popping up out of nowhere, with her team telling her that they have to go back. But when she goes up and sees at the top of a hill, she sees Gabra clutching onto Sakura, her master's dead body. As Gabra begins to try and flee away, Shizuru just states to quit messing around and to wait. But then he falls down into the pit again, with Shizuru just damning the world, damning it all, and that nothing has changed as she breaks down in tears. We see the rest of the 12 Guardians beginning to fight these Kagare creatures, as we then get a montage of Benio and Rokuro beginning to utterly annihilate these monsters right now. All of these Kagare creatures, as in a nice 2-page spread, we not only see these things being destroyed, but we also see the destruction of the town, as the 12 Guardians and other Exorcists and even the people look on at the backs of Rokuro and Benio. Now, in a lot of stories, you'd expect these people to just cheer that they were saved just now, but someone brings up that Benio looks like a Kagare, and that she's emitting yin energy. She isn't human, she looks like a Basra. We get a whole bunch of stuff from all the people surrounding them. Not just some of these exorcists, but also the actual townspeople that managed to survive. Asking, have they been hiding this from them all this time? They've allowed a Kagare to live on the island amongst them. Benio tries to ask them to hear them out, but a citizen just throws a rock at her, saying to get away, Kigare scum. With their friends trying to go and help them, Rokuro grabs onto Benio, stating that they have to cut it out, asking what they're doing. As everyone, exorcists and civilians, primarily like not the 12 Guardians or their closest friends, saying that he protected her. He protected a Kigare. It's a felony to side with a Kigare, and that they thought that the Twin Stars were there to protect them and bring an end to the war. And asking why he's protecting one, and to tell them the truth. As one of the exorcists asks, but they exorcised all the other Kigare, didn't they? But then the other citizens, in anger and frustration and grief, continue to say that they had this power all along. Why didn't they just use this sooner? It's so the people couldn't find out that she was a Kigare the whole time, right? Do they have any idea how many people died today? And we get a bunch of different things about the Twin Stars aren't heroes. They should have been protecting us, and that they never intended to protect them from the beginning, etc., etc. With Mayura basically trying to help calm everybody down, as they're all venting all their frustrations, exorcists and people included, just non-stop berating, as in Benio's mind, the negative energy of the yin energy in her head of the great yin is talking to her head, saying that this is pathetic, that these are the people that the two of them tried so desperately to protect, and that they don't seem worth it. What the hell? I don't know who this is, but I believe this is probably Ikaruga or Tenma. Tenma begins to try and use his powers to silence them, saying that just damning the citizens, as Ikaruga just says just to stop. If he uses he can't use a spell. If he forces them to silence, it'll provoke them even further, as everybody begins to throw debris and rubble at the Twin Stars. But then a gate is forced open into Magano, as we see two Kigare calling out to Benio as the Kigare princess, and it's the same Kigare that we saw Kamui fight. They basically state that Tora told them, and not to give them any trouble. Rokuro is asking what they're talking about, and that they just can't, while Benio stops him from talking, clutching him with tears in her eyes, just saying, just let it be. She's made her decision, and she's made her life difficult. She's made his life difficult, but this will have to be her last selfish act. And asks Rokuro not to ask her anything, just to let her go with them, and don't ever come after her. Benio pushes Rokuro away as she goes into the Magano gate, as she states, even though it was only for a short time, she was so happy. Her eyes tearing up with a nice smile, sorrowful smile. She states that she loves Rokuro as the gate closes up behind her, with everyone in awe, especially those that they knew. Rokuro collapses onto the ground, yelling in anger and pain, as he is out of his great yang form, as I actually forgot to mention this, as it seems that he's able to turn it off right now. But we then cut to Alice being lifted up from the rubble, and Miss Subaru confirming his safety. Especially that Wakana, someone that was close to Alice, gave her life to protect him. And he can't really take it, as he basically says that he didn't do anything. Why should his life be spared? As Subaru just says that everyone who made it through has survivor's guilt. And we get pieces of the other 12 Guardians going to where they are. Ikaruga seemingly going to where his house is, and probably sees a bunch of dead bodies. His sister most likely is the only survivor, from what I can most likely. Tenma is just staring up into the sky. Mayura and Shizuru are sitting down, dealing with everything. But Subaru just states that for now, they have to get the rest, as she says that the hardest part has just begun. And we then go to the inner sanctum and the rubble of one of these buildings, as a Basara seemingly still managing to survive. The nun Basara from much earlier in the arc that fought one of the mech using 12 Guardian member, and she goes towards a crying baby. She picks it up, basically beginning to say a lullaby to try and calm it down. The baby then calms down and smiles, as she then begins to crumble into dust, asking where its babysitter is gone. She crossed the mountain to visit the town, as an exorcist walks into the room, seeing the baby on the ground, being relieved that it's still alive. But one exorcist is wondering what's going on, as he's wondering where the mother is, and the other exorcist is wondering what he means by mother, as he said he thought he heard a lullaby, and that it's strange, as we then see the dust of this Basra on the ground, with only her clothing remaining, as the chapter ends, with us not getting anything else for another month. So that was Twin Star Exorcist chapter 99. We got the end of this big-ass battle and more on Tsujimikado Island, Benio releasing her full powers as the Grey Yin and unable to become human again. Her and Rokuro use their full extent of their powers to wipe out all the Kagare on this island. Unfortunately, despite them saving the island, all the citizens, after seeing Benio's true form, hate her and are basically using her as a way to vent out all the frustrations, and now they don't trust the Twin Stars anymore. The Twin Stars were viewed as heroes, and they were meant to protect everybody, and that's what they've been doing. But they don't know the full situation. They don't know that if Benio had used her powers earlier in the fight, she would have been forced into Magano and stuck there. She wouldn't be able to come back home. She wouldn't be able to come back to Earth. And the only people that knew this, aside from Rokuro, were most likely just the 12 Guardians in the upper echelon of the Exorcist organization. Based on Exorcists that probably weren't their friends or even house members, most likely did not know this, so they're probably going to turn against Rokuro now too. And now it looks even worse, because now Benio had to go into Magano with 2 Basra, and I'm just curious as to how all this is going to play out, because this arc in particular was very, very dark. Twin Star Exorcist has been a very dark series, especially ever since the time skip, and I honestly cannot imagine what's going on right now and what's going to happen. Rokuro is definitely going to have to go to Magano now, especially now that Yuta's body is in the possession of the Basra that is leading the charge, and he has part of the Great Yin's power. So something is going to go on, some big endgame type thing with the King of Kagare again. But I'm more curious to see what's going to happen next. How are Benio and Rokuro going to reunite? How are they going to save the day in the end? And how is the aftermath of this Great Tsujimikado War going to play out? As we already lost some 12 Guardian members, and a whole lot of people died, and now there's just a whole lot of resentment and anger towards the Twin Stars due to everything that's going on. But with all that said and done, what do you guys think is going to happen next? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. Do you think that all this could have been avoided if they just used their powers from the very start? Do you think that if they did this, that they would have been more accepting of Benio? I honestly don't know, probably not, but there's no real way of knowing for sure. But leave all your thoughts and opinions down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Continue to watch these reviews as they come out monthly, as if you enjoy this content, I will be more than happy to continue doing these monthly reviews for Twin Star Exorcists. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.